Good morning. Guten Morgen. Some people would just be like, oh God, Lola went out of the Nigeria. Yes, I did go out of Nigeria. It's another beautiful day from here in Lagos, Nigeria, with our favorite Jasiri queens. Yes. Speaking of queen, well, Her Majesty is back on the throne, and we have to salute the president. So please, let us solemnly welcome President General amongst the nation. President General amongst the nation.
Look at how fresh you are. You can tell.
Your Majesty.
You can tell.
Your Majesty.
We appreciate your coming.
Yes, as you come back, we have a 10-point agenda that we would like for you to revisit ASAP.
Wow. Oh, yes.
Man.
Queen Oakleys.
Yes.
Wow. Queen among
You
continents.
look like someone who has taken
A vacation.
Yes, and that's what it's supposed to look like.
That's why she's
When you look inside the dictionary and you see vacation, you see my picture. You see my picture. Oh man, but I missed you guys. I missed this table. I missed this table.
Our
We
tea
missed
table.
you were conveniently absent during the protest. A lot of things have happened in our dear
That is
country.
Otolu have avoided.
I'm not. I came back and I met Phil Scarcity.
No, you met the tail end of it.
Okay, apparently.
No, you didn't meet the
over
worst of
weekend,
it.
It was really, really bad. Like,
Every
so much to fill you in.
You have so
Don't worry
much.
about
It's been a lot. We've suffered.
Yeah.
We've suffered without you.
I'm so sorry.
Oh my God. She's back. Anyways, welcome back to Lu. But we have missed you. We've said that. And the viewers sure have missed the bougie girl on the show.
With the peculiars.
And I avoided that chair like plague because my natural Yoruba tongue cannot allow me.
It emerges.
And I didn't school abroad, so it's not going to work. But you know what, ladies? Before we jump right into, the business of the day, I sure have a question for you. As a Gen D, as Gen Z,
Gen D. It's okay. No, it's okay.
I wanted to say Gen X, but
You're not Gen X.
I am.
Millennial.
No, I'm a Gen something. But it's not. I'm not a millennial. I'm Gen X.
Gen X, yeah.
Yeah, I'm Gen
It
X.
sounds like Jeanette.
Gen Z body is not around, so someone has to take the mantle. And because I'm channeling a lot of beauty, gosh, let's play a game of fantasy shopping. Imagine, Antolu, we have to start from you because you just came from the abroad.
Yes.
If you were given a card with no limits, hey, what would you buy first?
Don't
like
too hard.
the
Another
very first
vacation.
thing.
Oh.
Another vacation.
Okay.
Yes.
Another vacation.
Ask me again.
So what's the duration of your vacation, if you would?
This next one will be 2 months.
2 months. How many
In
continents?
an 8-star resort, according to someone that I know.
Yes. 2 months. Let's say maybe 3-4 continents. Because I really do not like packing and unpacking on vacation.
Yeah.
I want to unpack and then pack when I'm coming back.
Coming back.
So all that in between thing.
Okay.
Because I don't know how to pack. My previous surname was Adeleru. I don't know how to pack. My husband was so upset
To say,
Honestly,
I'll beat that boy. I know he was in town this week. So my husband was so upset. I overpacked. Then when I was now coming to pack back, my sister was making fun of me like,
Kilo Fefu. And half of those things you're not going to wear.
I did not wear.
Of course I know.
I did not wear.
I had to learn that, this little vacation I went, I had to pack for the number of days. I took only 8 pieces of dresses for the first time in my life.
I try. I say I make a promise to
And
myself.
even the
I
8,
will do it this time and then I do it worse the next time.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
even the 8, I didn't even end up wearing all the 8th. But so where would you go, Catherine, before we dive?
No, where would you go? What would you do?
What would you do? What would you buy first?
off the top of my head, I would buy shoes. Off the top of my head, I didn't think too deeply.
Shoes.
If I were going to think deeply, hey.
Okay. Annie, Barbie.
You people are going to blast me, but
No,
let me tell you
I have an idea.
What you would.
What is it?
But I will let her laugh.
Is she you?
Yeah.
Is she you?
No,
So-
she can't be me. She's yellow. I'm Dudu.
Kat knows what the second answer is. The first answer is I would pay for someone to make sure that my money never, ever finishes, so that I can buy limitless perfume.
Yes, that's it.
Yes.
I love that first one. Give me 5.
Yeah.
That's it.
So the
That's like that
Wow.
smart wish with a genie in a bottle, so you make sure
Yeah.
that you continue to have wish.
So
Yeah.
continue to
Exactly.
have,
So that I can have a room.
thank God it's
full
a
of
fantasy you
perfume
are
and
living in.
shoes and bags.
Such a thing doesn't
How many
happen.
perfumes do you have now?
So,
Just-
the ones I've opened.
Say that again.
32.
3, 2.
Yes.
Ah,
So I just got back into
Addiction.
like
How
this.
many perfumes do you have?
Did you bring me perfume?
so me that I'm
From
even
the gate, I've been answering, what did you bring for us? What did you bring for us?
No,
so
chocolate
I just,
solved
in the
that
past
and
year and
sweet.
a half, I just got back into my perfume craze. I understand it.
Thank you.
Because unfortunately, every time I travel, I'm coming back with like, there's a 3, there's a 4, there's
Yeah.
a duty free,
Yeah.
32.
Yeah.
But do you know who she's making me think of? I don't know if you guys know lifestyle influencer, Nigerian American Jackie Aina.
Absolutely.
yeah.
Have you
She
seen
has
her
a roll.
perfume? Shelf?
Collection.
And then she's also making perfumes,
Yes.
but then she still gets perfumes.
Yes,
And that's the
because
plan.
you ultimately get there for something you
Yeah.
really love to
Love.
do. You will
But how will you remember to wear all of
You will.
them?
I
them.
promise you, you will. There's perfumes for different moods. When you're with the man, when you're with the girls, when you want to go make money,
When you want to get the man.
when you want to get the man.
Because that's the new
Okay.
promise of perfumes now, that you're edible. You're
Yeah,
come on.
Please, how did we
Come
get
on.
here? Lolo, please. Lolo, how did we get here?
Lola,
I think it's
okay,
because of
sorry,
this
I'm
man.
back. Lola has not answered the question. Well,
Tolu and I are very similar. I'm going to buy a vacation, but I'll buy
telling you.
a vacation. I will buy Europe
You buy
because I want to actually go to all of Europe.
You'll buy
If I
Europe?
can. I'll buy a vacation.
You'll
she'll buy a
Europe.
European vacation.
You know, I'll buy a European vacation, you know, because
That's
I
why
want to
she's not
go.
sitting in my chair.
Yeah. And I would go and I would stay in only luxury hotels.
Yes.
I keep telling people I want to have my retirement years, I want to traverse the world, but I want to do it in
luxury and style.
only. Only.
Meaning premium
I want to
composure
hit
and steez.
hotel food.
And hit the sauna.
My
Hit the
sister.
spa.
It depends.
When every time I ring a bell, they say, "Queen, what do you need?" And they must address me as Queen. Thank you.
Write your name as you're signing in just
Yes,
for Queen.
they say, "What
will.
would you need?"
They're there to make you
I need to
happy.
be served.
Wishes for horses.
No, I
you would
understand. I understand what she
know.
said at the end. You guys didn't hear. I need to be served.
Yes.
That's a thing for many women, married, without children,
I
with
need to be.
children.
Tolu, we were all okay
should be
before you
served.
came back.
Same.
I was
We
like
were not into our feelings and into our dreams like
did I
this.
do?
I need to be served. We didn't used to have this
want
kind
to
of
be served
conversations.
now. Don't you
no,
want to be served?
serious.
I'm tired
We
of
didn't
us
used to
now
have.
to be served.
Hey God.
That's why someone has
Serve me.
32 perfumes.
Yes, sir. Me that I even have
So-
6. I was
so moving
really
on
thinking that
seriously
a lot of
with the
people
show.
consider me a try. So me,
So I even have more than you.
Of course you do. Of course you do. I have 6 perfumes.
We'll talk about our favorite perfumes off camera.
Absolutely.
Okay.
All right.
Right.
Annie,
Not quite.
if you
quite
can be
an-
magnanimous to move us
Can we?
forward.
I shall, in fact, because Catherine is about to kick me under the table. This was a very, very interesting way to start the show. I'll give you that one too. Blessings will be proud. Blessings, shout out to you wherever you are. We love you and we miss you.
Yep.
But right about now, we will be going on a short break. When we return, our guest will be in the studio with us for a very interesting conversation as we discuss the perception and biases that surround the Nigerian accent. Please
The
stay
queen
with
is
us.
back. The
Welcome back to the show. You're still watching Jasiri, the place for bold, fearless, and courageous conversations. Now remember that we're streaming live on our social media platforms. We are at News Central TV. So don't forget to use the hashtag Jasiri to be part of the conversation so we know that you are watching. Now, Catherine is daring me to say this, and I'm going to say it with my full chest.
Say it.
We all know that an accent doesn't necessarily link up to a person's level of education.
You say what?
I said it, I will
That's true.
repeat.
Yes,
repeat.
Facts.
We know that an accent does not necessarily link up to a person's level of education.
Facts.
However, the conversations about accents in Nigeria seem to take a different tilt. We find families breaking the bank and spending a fortune to send their children to very expensive private schools because they want their children to sound a certain way. Because this is now what is perceived largely in society as intellectual, sound, and well-educated. We told you this because we're about to have an interesting conversation. And so joining us to dissect this topic is an educationist and a media expert. He's also the president of the Association of Diction Coaches in Nigeria. Titus Bankole, welcome to Jasiri. Welcome, Titus.
Thank you. I would have taken a proper bow, but
It's fine. We'll take what we get. What's your problem with my intro, Catherine?
Excuse me. Let's be honest. That thing you said is a perception. Once you start wanna gonna.
Oh.
Once you excuse me, I wanna. People look at you differently. Titus, am I right or wrong?
you're quite right.
Exactly.
Quite frankly, but it's just a broad subject.
How many people have told you, have asked you, my brother, this thing, which school did you school in Reading? Where did you, my
This
brother,
one's schooled in their blood. You cannot even
so
try.
were you born there? Did you school there? What made you come back? You must have people who stop you
Yes.
because of how you speak.
Absolutely.
Honestly, Tolu, we couldn't have gotten a better guest to, have us, have this conversation with. Better than, our very own Titus Bankole with
Why
a
are you
new
stuttering?
school session.
Why are you stuttering?
It makes me stutter because he has a British accent. And that is, it leaves me breathless, let's say. This is the kind of conversation we need to be having as we consider our educational system. And the children that we are raising.
Yep.
It's so important
Yep.
now that we talk about this in particular. Okay, let us start from the very beginning. Because I know you're Nigerian, and I know, but you have like foreign education.
Yes.
Let's start with the bias. Why do many Nigerians actually seem to want to, have foreign accents? And it's cutting across, and it's by force. Is it like an inferiority complex that is at play here? Because I would always say that I have interacted with people from other African countries.
Yeah.
They are heavily accented.
Yeah.
And nobody is killing anybody. So what is happening to us in our own climb here in Nigeria?
All right, so clearly I'll start from the steady decline this country witnessed in terms of language competence and what is being put out there as language competence. It's got to do with education.
Wait, sorry, what is language competence?
Absolutely. To have a level of proficiency using a language.
In any language?
In any language. It cuts across diverse languages. And of course, there is the linguistic variety, which is a feature that dominates human life. And you'd agree with me that you could speak your mother tongue,
Yes.
and you do it so well. And I'm enthralled because you're showing all the features of that mother tongue language. That is language competence there. You abide by the features and the rules governing that language. And you can say to a large extent, I'm proficient in Yoruba, in Igbo, in Hausa. Unfortunately, I'm using the word or term unfortunately, this is a country that has over close to estimated 394 to 513 dialects. And we have 3 major language groups dominating the others. So when you bring in the factor of proficiency using a lingua franca, we have English language. And also you'd agree with me that the 4, I would say, fathers and rulers of this nation had this distinctive use of English. They were competent, not because they had an accent.
Yeah.
Are you following this?
The language.
Yes. So they understood that if I want to show proficiency in a particular language, I'm going to stick to the standards and not necessarily holding on to the social benefits of a language. And that will make you begin to subscribe to the anomalies, pushing the accent ahead of the competence.
So let me take
Titus,
let me take you up on that in terms of the social benefits.
Yes.
Because I think that's, when we talk about pretty privilege, we need to
Yes.
also understand that there's accent privilege.
Yes,
And
there
I won't
is.
lie, I know because I won't
Most
say I
certainly.
benefited.
You are benefiting.
No.
You are benefiting.
So maybe I benefited in the beginning, but once you know me, you know that the competency is there. So
Yeah.
it's not just about being sounding like I sound.
People who don't know you, there's
There's
also-
that.
Yes, that's what they will assume.
Yeah, so in terms of Nigerian society, what are we assuming are the social benefits of sounding like a non-Nigerian, like sounding like me, sounding like you? What are those benefits?
They're multifarious, to be honest with you. And you're going to have different audiences, and the levels of understanding would vary. Yes, someone who's educated can appreciate your unique style of speaking because they know you are educated. Your articulatory prowess shows. Your pronunciation is accurate. It is clear. It is consistent. So these are features you want to consider to measure someone's competence, to say, oh, honestly and genuinely, you speak very well.
Yeah.
So that is for the educated class.
Yeah.
Then socially, we have those who just hear you and they just say, this sounds British, sounds American. They do not care about how accurate, how your grammar is flawless, the use of English, and other factors. So it is huge, it's broad, so not everybody can understand. But the unique thing here is, once you have a different way of speaking in society, you are overly accepted to be, or attempt to be intelligent, to be educated. And just to quote Catherine, you cannot in any way separate the fact that it is a measure of your educational level or background. It's the truth.
Is it the accent or the right pronunciation? Because it feels like we're conflating the two.
Yes. Now, I usually say let's go to school. So accent's the way of pronouncing in a particular, of a particular language. And of course, it has its features. And so, if I'm using a particular accent, it's because the features of that particular language are being followed, the standard. To make it broader, as we sit here, not everybody knows that there are two widely spoken varieties of English across the world.
Yes.
These are the major sources. They are British English and American English. And there are factors and features dividing and separating both accents.
Yes.
In a general description, the American English is largely
informal.
yes, or no, I wouldn't say informal, it sounds derogatory.
Okay.
Yes, we call it the rhotic accent because of an overwhelming factor, the letter R. Anytime the letter features in words, there is the overwhelming representation of that sound, which is a r. Are you following this conversation?
Yes.
So now, for the rhotic accent, which is largely American, if I have to say any word now that ends with ER, like better, that's a standard pronunciation. But if I consider American accent, if I consider the rhotic factor, I would say, first of all, better. But if I get really American, I'm considering other features of the accent, you hear me say better.
Better.
South, north,
Yes.
mid, yeah, I understand.
This is
Wow.
going to lead me to another question. It seems basic, but I think it's important to ground this conversation.
Yes,
A lot of people don't know that there's a difference between theoretical linguistics
absolutely.
and applied linguistics.
Yes.
Correct.
Where, I suppose with theoretical, you're focusing on the structure and the function of language, but with
Yeah.
applied, you're focusing on linguistic methodologies
Yes.
about language and how, in terms of like learning a second language,
Yes.
things like that. So why applied linguistics? Is that something that you've always had an interest in? And what effect has it had on the life that you've charted for yourself? In fact, in terms of the Nigerian landscape as well, how people understand language.
My perception of education with regards to education has always been made very clear. The point is, you have two things to showcase. Mastery. Yes, if you're learned, you show mastery, and it comes with grounded skills.
Yes.
I'll give an example. I like to be very practical. When you say applied linguistics, there's a difference between someone who speaks well, who uses other features.
Yeah.
You hear all the rhotic accents, you hear the pure British accent,
Yes.
Using factors. For instance, when someone says water, it is automatically British. But what did you not know? That water, by British standards, is not
It's
a
not
standard
English.
form
Yes.
of speaking.
It's Cockney.
It is
Thank
Cockney,
you.
exactly.
it's Cockney.
Yeah.
And there are numerous, over 10 accents. It's evolving. There's Brahmin, Scouse, Geordie, there is the RP. There's numerous accents. Let me shock you, in case you know something close to the Queen's English. Do you know that when you say Queen's English, it's quite relative? Because for some of us who are scholars, we've gone to the point where we are evaluating even the language. And we know that in terms of pronunciation, there are some inconsistencies in the Queen's way of pronouncing.
Interesting.
Yes.
Interesting.
All right, let's give an example. So there's the one OFTEN,
Often.
Yeah.
often.
Often. Yeah.
And did you know that it also can be often?
Yes.
But not many people are aware. Now, when you say often, you look at the first sound in that word, which is a short O. You should go O in British English. On, box, fox, top. Then we have what? Often or often. In the Queen's way of pronouncing that particular, she goes often. They're ascribing that sound a long O
Long O
sound.
sound. Long O sound.
All right, now, so I'm interested in where you're going with this, because it makes me think about the next question, which is why do parents do everything to make sure that their children or their child or their ward acquire this accent, what we call this foreign accent, by sending them to diction coaches, speech language schools to acquire this accent, because in their minds, it gives them a leg up.
Yes.
I come from a place where my mother was a lecturer, she was an educationist, she spoke languages. So, but she never for once put the pressure
Yes.
on speaking accents in English.
yeah.
My mother always said, speak and pronounce the word as necessary. And that's
Yes.
what happened to Mrs. Oluede when, we went to...
Yes.
No one's saying you should speak
Have
with
an
an
accent.
accent.
Yeah.
Because I feel it's burdensome for me.
Yes, it can
I
be-
can imagine for
can
you
be
speaking,
burdensome.
it's burdensome. So what happened to speaking properly? What happened to speaking properly? And now the wave is that people are moving their children. Oh, you have to speak with an accent. Small holiday where they go come like everybody's speaking. I have a friend who has never gone to the US. Oh boy, if you hear my friends in Blue American,
It's even the kids now because of exposure to cartoons.
Yes.
Peppa Pig is one. I'm hearing little children with British accents. I'm like, where have you been? Where did it come from?
And to be honest, again, we just have got to know we have a treasure trove of reasons why parents, again, family history and background. If you are from a family or a lineage where they are academicians, professors or teachers, and maybe they're related to, what they do is related to the language, then you might have that pressure. It's not going to be emphasized. It should be there because you bet in that home, in that house, the communication is smooth. Now, some of the parents do not know. Some genuinely know what they want for their children. They want their children to be clear, just want them to speak the highest possible, or show the highest possible level of proficiency when they use the language. And it cannot undermine the fact that it will come with some certain features. Pronunciation is one of them. And I always say to people, actually, that you don't necessarily need to have a perfect imitation of a native speaker accent to show that you've got good diction in English.
Yes.
Let me reiterate that. You don't necessarily need a perfect imitation of a native speaker accent to show you've got good diction in English. However, you've got to have a model. You went to school, you didn't learn English, you weren't taught English using Nigerian English, were you? No. We just WAEC released result recently, and I'm not sure anybody can pass writing Nigerian English. You're this proficient because you had
immersion.
Thank you, immersion, and none of these, I would just call absurdities, I beg your pardon, were always in your face. No, you had the opportunity to be in an environment where it is curated for the main use of the language.
Yes.
So, if I'm a parent saying I want my child to have the best sort of proficiency in the language, then it's got to do with pronunciation proficiency, there's vocabulary, there is grammar, and you can't leave out these stuff. What if I told you that these days, what people regard as fluency is total nonsense? For instance, we've been having this conversation, I don't think at any point in time I've had to struggle brutally. I've not been brutally strained because your conversations are fluid. And what are you subscribing to? You're subscribing to main features or continuity using connectives that we call cohesive devices. We're not stuttering. We're not going, you know,
Yes. Words.
you know,
Yes.
you don't lack words. And it's consistent. Like I always say to people, if you really know the basis and what really qualifies a good speaker, then when you speak, you're bursting with so much confidence. Why? Because there's three things you're portraying. There's clarity, there's accuracy, and there's consistency. I call it the CAC. And a lot of people, many speakers and professionals are guilty of this. And sometimes the sort of language you use can elicit the worst sort of responses from people because you shouldn't share disregard because you've wrongly used an expression. But you think because you feel you sound American, you sound British, you own the floor. But no, it's not competence.
Why is it that they came to me? So Titus, I need you to hold on. We're going to take a quick break now because there's more to this. When we talk about this, we can also take out the whole controversy that Nigeria seems to have when it comes to the IELTS.
Yes.
We have to touch base on that. And of course, parents pursuing this conversation and go further. But is there a fundamental problem? Is there an inferiority complex when it comes to Nigerians and accents? And why is it that we seem to be the country here on the continent struggling the most to sound like we're not from the continent. When we come back. You're welcome back. This is Jasiri, and the conversation is around perception and bias and, of course, the Nigerian accent. Our guest is Titus Bankole. He is, of course, a media communications expert and president of the Diction Coaches of Nigeria.
Yes.
Fantastic. So right before the break, I mentioned, of course, the dreaded IELTS, and it's been a controversy for many years in Nigeria. In 2022, around 40,000 Nigerians actually signed a petition calling on the UK Home Office to either remove Nigeria from the list of countries whose citizens are required to take English proficiency tests or reduce the fees charged for the examination. So we can leave the fees to one side. But given that we are a country that was colonized by the British, we speak quote-unquote British English.
Yes.
Many people have an issue with the fact that we are required to take this proficiency test. And in the conversation of accents and diction and pronunciation, it's still a very big issue.
Yes.
I don't know if you guys caught the, there was a Twitter something let's say like 2 or 3 months ago, some guy came out on Twitter and said somebody did a resume and used a word that we use here in Nigeria.
Oh, yes. And
it was like, he's very sure that it's ChatGPT, it's AI.
Yeah.
And all of these people who are from countries that were colonized by the British had to come and tell him, guy, no, this is a normal word.
I think the word was delve, was it?
Delve, it was
Yeah.
delve.
It was
And
delve.
Nigerians will
Yeah.
tell you delve into that. We use it very equally.
Yeah.
So first with the IELTS, let's look at that. And then also the perception of how we're speaking to the rest of the world. Titus.
Well, again, clarifications are required in some certain fields. The perception might not be sufficient to carry you through what you require something for. Perceptions are always subject to many factors and fallacies, number one. Number two, I always go by this quote, one of my favorite quotes as a professional, that what is right is not always popular. And what is popular is not always right. So you have to find and seek what the standards are. I perceive that I can use this language and get away with it. But in the particular context, is it right? Is it appropriate? No. And so when you have standardizing or standardization tests, they want to really test or check your proficiency. It is the requirement. Whether you have been speaking the language for donkey years, maybe because of a certain research and what we have discovered over the years, that there's been, like I said earlier on, a decline in the proficiency we have recorded from this part of the world. And so I don't think it is going to be business as usual, just letting them have access to work and to other things you wish to do in the country. So IELTS, as they usually call it, is a test to measure your proficiency. And you have to show in different areas where you're being tested. For instance, when I do IELTS coaching, by the way, and one of the things that I find pretty upsetting is that everybody goes about speaking English. So when it comes to taking or sitting the test, why do people not get the required BAM score? Have you asked yourself that question? You speak English almost every day.
Yeah.
And then when the test comes, you see yourself struggling because there is a great detachment from speaking English, understanding English, and using it, and then when it's time for you to be tested, just a different
Grammar.
setting. Thank you. You begin to falter. I wonder, how can I go through this?
No, you're sorry. I said, how do you spell pencil?
You begin to say, hey, like Nigerian, hey.
It doesn't sound. It does not work. It doesn't sound good.
I wanted to ask you, speak small pidgin my ear because this your English.
My pigeons don't better.
Hey, yeah.
You still speak better than me.
You know, another thing I look at is our cultural identity.
Yes.
Because whether we like it or not, there are many factors that make us who we are.
True.
And some particular tribe have deficiencies in something.
Yes.
Just like you talked about the rhotic accent. In Nigeria, we have the H factor.
Absolutely.
We have the L. We have the
R.
We have the I. You know,
numerous.
different.
The TH.
The TH.
Yes,
Even
that
I
sounds
have
like
to like TH it. Then I have to H.
The ask versus ask.
Yeah.
Ask.
That's not what's to ask you.
Will we survive this conversation? You're going to ask me.
There's some things that just come with us, our mother tongue. And I don't think it's something that we need to be overly ashamed of. Because if you hear a Kenyan speak, I have heard them.
South
I
Africans.
can hear South
Yes.
Africans can hardly, some of them would make a sentence and add Zulu in like a word.
Yes.
Just like Catherine is not real acculturized. She would still speak English and add French in it.
All right, so let me pick it up from there. You made a reference to Catherine. Pardon me, Catherine. Come on.
This was parlez-vous.
Don't bite.
Don't bite. When Catherine speaks English, you can hardly tell wherever she's from the country, yes or no.
Yeah.
So that means there is no overwhelming inflection.
No, she's not Nigerian completely. Maybe I need to add some context.
Oh my God.
Yes.
She's half Nigerian.
Yes.
She's French speaking.
Jesus.
Good.
So that could help her.
Yeah, like you said, it's a factor. Like the background, the upbringing, the education.
Yeah.
But the thing that's established here, Catherine is not necessarily so American or British, but at the same time, you cannot tell where she's from.
Yes.
And for her, it's a huge advantage. Yes, actually. Whether we like it or not, there is this hierarchy of speakers. There is accent discrimination. And that people go out of their way to take accent reduction courses and training programs.
Please repeat. There are
Yes.
accent reduction courses.
Absolutely.
I don't
Why?
think Nigerians would go
yeah,
there
so
with
that's
it.
what-
In your
one of the things that-
association, you actually have accent reduction.
I was going to say.
All right, let
yeah.
me give you an instance. Why accent reduction? For a teacher now, accent reduction is necessary. You don't want to send your child to a nursery school. You are Igbo, and maybe your child's teacher is a Yoruba teacher with heavy Yoruba accent, and your child comes home, has gone to learn English, and has some very strong...
Let me ask you a question.
And you let the woman say, Chima.
Let me interrupt. I have to say this. A friend of mine sent her child to one of the popular schools. You will kill me after, during the break, when I tell you which school this is. And she said she came back, her daughter came back and said, I was reading her activity book and reading a sentence. And she said, there is a snake. There is a snake. See what I said? She said, what? She said, there is a snake in the bush.
So all my school fees has gone into the bush.
No, making reference to that, certain job opportunities
Yes.
will not be that fair or
Yeah.
considerate of the fact that, oh, we don't need to be heavily accented.
Yes.
Or, you know, some certain opportunities, career growth you seek that's got to do with communication, and it would require the highest level of, or the best communication skills you can boast of. And that is diction included, not just in terms of pronunciation, enunciation, in terms of the choices or the choice of words you use. Their connotative meanings, their denotative meanings. It's about the complete package. That when you say something, it's the right thing to say, and you're not going
At
to
the
sound
right place.
offensive.
Yeah.
The right place, the right audience,
context.
the sort of jokes you want to crack, the kind of
Yeah.
humor that's putting out there. So it is a holistic discussion. And so people trying hard to separate the bits and feast on certain narratives that would favor their argument, which sometimes comes from a place of ignorance and a place of prejudice. So there's no room for education for them to see that these other aspects of the language actually do count. Like I just told you right now, when I did my internship at some point with BBC 5 Live Sport, I encountered some
Accent discrimination?
Yes, not in a bad way. I've had people who accosted me and said to me, "Why are you sounding white?"
So, you know, I had this, I grew up in the South and I had the same thing. My father, both my parents, teachers, lecturers, whatever. And so I do it to my daughter now. She'll mispronounce a word, I'll start over.
Correct it immediately.
Like,
Yes.
correct.
Immediately.
And what I didn't hear, you start that sentence
Again.
over. And that's how I grew up. And so when I was growing up in middle school and high school, I get told, why are you sounding white?
White.
And I think when we say that, we don't seem to understand. We're making it seem like sounding white is the superior thing.
Yes.
So whatever it's white, whatever it is, sounding
Whatever
American,
is not,
sounding
that's
British, whatever you want to
inferior.
call it, we end up giving it this sort of connotation that is the superior
Yes.
sound.
Absolutely.
So Titus, I'm coming back to this accent discrimination thing that you mentioned. In context of Nigeria, how do we see this accent discrimination play out?
Well, in different ways, to be honest with you. Like
More
I said,
positively?
I would say more positively. Okay, let me try to be diplomatic here. And not holding back any iota of truth and needed fact.
Please pronounce that word again.
Iota.
Iota.
Did you
How
hear?
do we call it?
Well, that's a word that you always pronounce from the acquiesce.
Acquiesce.
At least I got that one right.
Yes.
No, I actually was doing spelling bee and I saw the word. I wouldn't lie, I stuttered. I thought
Because it does not make sense. ACQ.
Yeah.
No, but when you think quit, when you think acquit, acquire.
My brain does not connect it like that. Sorry, go ahead.
Yes. Discrimination. So it is, I would say to a large extent, not a thing in Nigeria because of what we've made a massive social and societal shift in terms of assessing and evaluating language proficiency in the country. And that's why we have people now, like you said, wanting their children to have American accents, British accents, other than wanting their children to sound right.
Yes.
So that anywhere you go across the world, you can communicate very effectively in English.
Yes.
Yes, at least if anyone's from the north or western part of the world, from Europe, from Asia, and you speak English language, there is that clear perception that, okay, this is English that I can understand. Yes, it is globally acceptable.
Yes.
Now in Nigeria here now, there's Hausa, there's Hausa English,
Yes.
there's Yoruba English, there's Igbo English.
I think Hausa sounds a little more better than...
That is relative.
accent,
That is
exactly.
relative.
It's because
But
of the accent.
again, in my world and what I do daily, with my interactions with people, professionals and top industry people, you'd see that there is still that bias, whether you like it or not, for good communication skills.
Yeah.
Over, I would have been elevating enunciation and diction, and this time putting the choice of words behind how you enunciate. So when you go there and you say some few words and you enunciate, you're readily brought closer. And then maybe you have on the panel people who can overlook other factors, but like this person sounds, he can represent us, he can represent the company very well. So there is that bias in the country. So accent discrimination actually exists here, but not on that spectrum where, you know, in Nigeria now, it has got to be, if you're not American, you're not British.
So,
like in media, there's certainly.
Let's not talk media because if we want to go to radio...
Do you remember the awards? Locally acquired accent awards that somebody did one year when we were on radio.
Oh my
Yeah, some of our colleagues failed that.
you know what?
Locally, did you just say locally acquired accents?
Like now,
Locally acquired foreign accents.
accents. No, because now if you look at the proliferation of accents on radio, especially, you see people mixing
British, American, Cambodian, Filipino.
But
You don't,
we are leaving the fact that you just need to pronounce
The words
properly.
right.
Yeah.
You
Know
need to
the words, know the
understand
kind
what
of
you're
grammar
saying. Yeah.
and your tenses, how to use them.
And you know, sorry, Lola, this brings me to my next question. Sorry. So you were talking about essentially policy, and I
Yes.
want to ask about the education policy when it
Yes.
comes to the work that the ADCN does,
Yes.
because you do have quite a bit of reach.
Yes.
But how does that apply practically to the education policy about in Nigeria?
So one of our core goals would be to standardize, apart from structuring. We're structuring and standardizing in the aspect of teaching.
Okay.
Now, the association looks at ensuring that if anybody wants to say they're a diction teacher, they know why they're teaching diction and they're not just going and saying, oh, accent, foreign accent. We were standardizing that space.
Yes.
That's number one. The policy is to be addressed because, let me say this, unfortunately, you go to people who are seeking job opportunities and they say you studied English. And you begin to ask her, what English did you study?
Did you study?
I mean,
Ijebu English.
No, it's abysmal.
it can be abysmal. So we are hoping to take charge with our, I would say, crusader sort of driven objectives to see how we can penetrate or infiltrate the education sector and make them understand having these conversations.
And
It's
you work
about
in the
time.
media as well.
Yes, I do.
So how are you merging both fields to achieve what you just said? So are there programs, are there initiatives, are there projects that people can actually key into and so on when it comes to...
All right, so I come from a media culture that uses media for education.
And social change.
Yeah, social change. And if I come on air, I'm not just hoping to entertain, inform, I'm educating. And language is also a key part of education.
Yes.
And so I'm quite conscious of what I say, how I say them. So it's one of the things we carry as our mantra. There are policies that include training programs addressing the key areas. For instance, a spelling bee in the country, there's spelling bee, we come to show you how spelling bee should be done. If you're a coach, you want to go into teaching children to be good public speakers, we offer the template to you so that you know that you're not going to tell a child, say better. No, you're not saying better, say better. No, it's got to go away from that. So we often training programs. We have big events. It's a national conference. Yes, coming up shortly. On Saturday, there's a national conference. And we have assembled a team of experts whose proficiency we can boast of. She's on our panel list.
So Titus, we'll have to wrap there because of time. Time has gone, There's a lot happening.
It's what happens when you're having good conversation.
Yes.
Funny how time flies.
Thank you so much, Titus, for coming on Jasiri and talking about accents and the deep desire for accented English in Nigeria, whether we like it or not, and is that what we're exporting outside? But hey, this is conversation that we will continue to have. On Jasiri, we don't really wrap up conversations. There are conversations that take different angles as the show goes on. But we'll take a short break now. When we return, Jasiri will continue. We have a hot topic coming up. All right, welcome back to Jasiri. You know what time it is. Let's jump right into our hot topics. Okay, so they set me up for this one, but let's go there. So you guys already know that Daddy Gio is trending. You guys know he's trending, right?
Yes.
And he's trending based on what he said. And what he said is this. I'm going to quote it. He says, "Our leaders are trying, but Nigeria needs spiritual help." End of quote. Daddy Adeboye is saying, Jesus. Daddy Adeboye is saying that the one way they do our country, he passed the one way normal I fit see. Me, I've always said it. It's true. But then again.
How is it true?
I'm tired.
I'm so happy they gave it
I'm
to
tired. No, I'm
How is it
tired
true?
of human beings, Nigerians specifically. I'm tired of how we relinquish our own agency,
Accountability,
responsibility, the part that you're supposed to play, and we say instead of doing, we pray. That's all we do. We pray and pray and pray about our prayers and pray about our prayers not being answered and pray about the problems from not being. There is a place that you have responsibility. You can pray from now till tomorrow. If you do not get up and
put in the
work, nothing is going to happen. Give offering, give tithe, give to the pastor and his wife and his kids. Nothing is going to happen. But this is the mentality that plagues Nigerians. If I pay homage to the man of God who serves the God that is going to give me the thing I want, that's all I need to do. And it is laziness. It is mental laziness.
Honestly,
My sister, the one that is doing us amongst ourselves that we cannot speak with one voice in the country is a problem. And I keep saying it. We can do everything that we can do. Someone will say, but we are trying on our part. We're trying. In as much as we as a people, I want to buy tomatoes from you. And you know that this cocoa that has tomatoes, you have put something, half of it, and you have put the tomatoes on top. You have loaded the tomatoes to make it feel like, say, that basket
full
is
basket.
full. Meanwhile, there's half of it you have
empty.
blocked it. If we continue to always do that, looking for ways to shortchange your neighbor, shortchange your brother, insofar as we are not seeing the Hausa man there and we call Aboke as our brother, insofar as we are not coming together, because first of all, we are self-serving. Everybody's looking for a petty government unto ourselves. If we don't break all of that and really see that this person is truly my sister, nobody say you're looking at this person and saying, why is this person always shining? Well, I'm going to do this to this person. Why is it? No. Once we do that, if we cannot come together like that, then we have a problem.
You know, they've always said that religion is the opium of the
masses.
people. And it just breaks my heart at the way we are reinforcing wrong. Because these are people that people respect and honor, and what they say matters. So a lot of the things that we see in our country, how is lack of electricity, no transportation, bad roads, bad education, health, what is spiritual
about those things?
About those things.
Exactly.
If you put tar on the road, it makes the road smooth.
Yeah.
You don't need to pray, to make that happen. But now we are asking for, the only thing I would say is now we are asking God to help us change the minds of people that should think better so that they can do the right thing.
There are four money-making ventures that profit the most in Nigeria. 4. And it wasn't me. One of my bike guys I was talking to said there are 4. He said one is church.
Yes.
Second one is school in Nigeria. Third one is mosque. And the fourth one is, guess what, hotel. He said so. I actually sat and thought about it. I said, it's true, because all of us go to church. Remember when the protest was going on, there was the church was marching. One church was they just kept on, everybody was going to pray. So we are very, like I said, we discussed it on this table, probably we're looking for an anchor, something to hold on to desperately to give us some sense. And so we all go en masse to church.
So here's the thing I'll say, and I'm going to stop here. An anchor is a beneficial tool. It is supposed to help dock and keep the boat in place so it doesn't float away. But if your anchor is faulty and your boat is in a storm, that thing that is supposed to be useful to you becomes the source of your demise because your boat can't float away or sail away. And I think that religion and an over-dependence on God, not for who he is, but for what he can give us, has become the anchor that is drowning the ship of Nigeria.
But it's a poverty mentality.
So that's the point, sorry, Lola, that's the point I want us to come to. It is a poverty mentality.
Yeah.
Where is the encouragement about citizens taking up their rights, about demanding accountability? You're not asking them to pick a party. You're asking them that Nigerians are their party. These people are civil servants and they're meant to work for us. I believe in the spiritual. I believe that there are things we can't see and we can't understand. Governance is not one of them.
Not one of them.
Governance is not one of them. No. Governance is not rocket science.
Having a 300% increase in the judiciary salary is not spiritual.
An alien is not going to come down and tell us how to run Nigeria. Yeah. Jesus himself will not come down. No. He has given us all the tools
we need.
He has given us all the resources. Nigeria is one of the countries that is most blessed in this world. But it's not prayer that's going to bring the minerals out. It's not prayer that's going to increase your barrels per day. It is not prayer that's going to deal with your insecurity issues.
Or repair your refineries.
So with all due respect, I would have expected there to be an extra to this statement. It is not enough for you to say Nigeria's problem is spiritual, because that means you've given the problem over. You've let go, and in this situation you're saying you're letting God. Meanwhile, God has told you, go and do the work.
No, maybe
the funny
it's
thing,
heavy
though,
for him to say.
It's coincidental that a spiritual leader says the problem is spiritual. Does that not bring more people to you with more offerings and tithes? I'm just saying.
Before they chase us out of this season.
It's 2 plus 2. It's going to be 22. Because sometimes when people have nothing, you need to sell them home.
Exactly.
Is it me that's right? Oh, it's me that's right. It's great to be back with the ladies here on the Jasiri table. Thank you so much for joining us. A very big thank you to our guest, Titus Bankole. We had a lot of conversations on YouTube, a lot of comments. I wanted to take some of those, but unfortunately we weren't able to. But make it a day with us, 10 a.m. West African time. We are here to give you all the best in conversations, from politics to the economy. I'm back to rapping, and Catherine likes it. Guys, I missed you. I'm back. We'll see you tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Bye, guys.